What I really want us to learn from this small segment is how bullying causes stress and how stress impacts learning and how it affects the brain, really. You have kids in your classroom right now that sit there and worry about leaving the room. Or they may sit and worry about their cooperative groups, who they're in cooperative groups with. They may be worried that when they leave that room, they're going to go out into the hallway and somebody's going to confront them and they're going to have a problem. All of that creates stress in the mind of a kid. And if someone is under stress, and you know yourself, if you get placed under the gun, what happens? You really don't have your mind on what you're doing. And if something is troubling you, okay, you'll never be able to focus on what you need to focus on. And what we want to do is we want to understand how the brain operates and then take the necessary steps to build a positive relationship with a kid so that the stress, okay, does not get to him in the classroom. Our relationship with that kid will reduce stress. So I'm going to show you what I call and you have this in your manual, my crude depiction of the brain. Now, the brain, it has got 3 layers. It has the brain stem, and it's probably in the back, in the appendix. It has the brain stem. It has the limbic system, which is where the emotions are. Okay, and then you have the neocortex up top, which is where you do all your higher order thinking. This is where all of your learning takes place at the top. Okay, this is the cerebrum. This is the densest part of the brain. Okay, it's very thin, but it's very dense, and believe it or not, it takes up 90% of the brain's weight. So our goal is to get here, to make sure that what we teach can get to the neocortex. Used to have years ago in New Jersey a program that was called the HOTS program. I don't know if you guys ever used it at all. But basically what it was is higher order thinking skills. It was activities that brought kids to this level, made information that was presented, got presented in a way that it got to the neocortex. Here's the point that I want to make to you. All incoming information has to pass through the emotions before it can get processed. And if this brain here is under stress, what will happen is it will downshift and go into the stem. The stem is where the brain goes for survival. That's where you have the heart rate, the respiration, and the adrenaline flow. The primary responsibility of the brain is survival of its owner. So the brain is always going to figure out a way to survive. And there's only two ways that we handle stress. You either are in what's called the flight mode or you're in the fight mode. Now, what you probably have not learned is that when kids go into the fight mode, okay, one of the primary problems that they have is a conduct problem. Fight mode means you got a kid who's a conduct problem. That kid needs to develop respect. Flight mode means that a kid has a responsibility problem. This is the kid that you'll see sleeping at your desk all the time, sleeping at his desk all the time. Okay, he has some clinical issues and he has to develop greater responsibility. That's why I've often said kids who have clinical issues, who are irresponsible, maybe they suffer from a little depression, whatever the case may be, oftentimes what we do is we want to take responsibility away from them when really what we should be doing is feeding it to them just a little bit at a time. But nonetheless, okay, let's just say, okay, we have our brain. I'm the teacher. Teresa comes into my class late one day. She comes in late. Okay, and this is the third time she's been late this week, and I am sick of it. I am so tired of her being late. She comes in, and I look at her, and I say, you know, when are you going to get it right? Just sit down. I'm so tired of you being in here, you have no idea. You know, as a matter of fact, I'm going to guidance to have you removed. You're not on time, you're not doing any work, and I go on. Now, if Teresa is a fighter, she'll look at me and she'll say, you know what? I really don't care. Why don't you just shut up and teach your class? If she's not a fighter, if she's a person who is more of a flighter, what'll happen is she'll just sit there and she probably won't do anything. She may even put her head down on the desk. Either way is no good. Here's the piece I want you to understand. I, at that point, put Teresa under stress. You're not going to see it, but this is what I call, right here, my bricks in the wall. Burns now is on one of the bricks in Teresa's wall, right there, Burns, B-U-R-N-S. Anything that is this, and you know what? Kids who get bullied, they only have to hear the name of the bully to feel the stress. Teresa, I put her under stress. She may only have to hear my name from here on out to feel the stress. Tommy did it to me. Remember in our discussion yesterday? I only had to hear his name to feel the stress. Teresa's got to come back into my classroom now. She comes back into my classroom the next day, okay, prepared, ready to learn. Here's what happens. She comes in, okay, I start teaching, she's ready to go, the information comes in, the limbic system intercepts it and says, wait a minute, where is this information coming from? Burns, right? What did I cause? Stress. What's the primary responsibility of the brain? Survival. Down into the stem. This is why two teachers can have one student, and you talk to one teacher and you say, how's Teresa doing? Teresa's doing great. I love having her in class. Wonderful. Terrific student. Talk to another teacher. How's Teresa doing? Teresa, I don't even see her. What are you talking about? I don't understand what's going on. Our job is to create a climate in the classroom where all kids can learn, and to create a safe learning environment for our students. There are a certain percentage of kids that you're going to have in your class that are going to give you a hard time. Here's what I want you to understand. Those kids that give you a hard time in your classroom are creating stress for the rest of the class. They create that stress. When you start to engage in a power struggle with another student, the rest of the class may think it's funny. That's the outward reaction. The inward reaction is they feel stressed because they don't want you to lose the struggle. They don't want to have a kid who's a behavior problem or a potential bully, okay, taking over the class. That's why it's so important for us to begin to look at the type of learning environment we have and what kids are giving us a hard time in our classrooms. See, the real bottom line is kids are going to laugh, chuckle, and everything else, but in reality, they don't want you to lose the battle. They don't want the class to be taken over by a bully. They don't want it to happen. And kids who are under stress because of kids in that classroom, our responsibility is to work with the kids who are bullying other kids in the classroom to reduce the stress on the victims. Now, let's just say that between me and Teresa, okay, we got something going on. I got a problem, okay, because Teresa's not learning. But I know it now. Now you know it. So all you have to do is identify certain kids that you have trouble with in your classroom. And then you have to ask yourself the question, why am I having a problem with them? And what you may need to do is you may need to go to them and say, hey, look, Teresa, you and I aren't getting along. This isn't too good. What can we do about it? But I want to let you know, if I'm responsible for anything that's gone on between you and I, "Hey, I just want to, let you know I'm sorry and ask you to forgive me." Now, what do you think that kid's going to say if you say to them, "I'm sorry, will you forgive me?" Probably going to say, "Yeah, fine, no problem." But they will look for proof the next day that you're for real. They'll accept the apology, but then look for proof. And people say to me all the time, "You mean you're going to say you're sorry to a kid?" Yes, if it means that I'm going to be able to save the rest of the class and we're going to be able to work together. It is so important to make sure that you have that relationship with one of your students. But it's even more important to be sure that that relationship that gets created reduces the stress. You don't want the stress in your room. You don't want the stress. The stress is what's killing us. The stress is what's killing the kids. The climate of the classroom is what's important. And we have to build a relationship with every single kid that we have at different levels. Now, there's ways to do it.